Maybe he's a little overrated.
Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez at 168 pounds.
Canelo's really good. Really good. But I think Crawford is special. I know he hasn't fought the resume everyone wants, but you have that or you don't have that ingredient. And I think he has it. Canelo's really good. He's tremendous. But could he be a tiny bit overrated? The greatness is within Crawford. It's in his desire. It's in his mind. It's in his makeup, where he came from. I know he's moving up in weight class. Can he carry it? But those intangibles, I believe that he has them.
And those are the words of Teddy Atlas. And let me counterpunch. You know what? God bless anybody that goes against the popular belief. Teddy Atlas been around for a long time, and he knows boxing, and he knows how fighters are, and he knows what they can do, and he sees what they can do. And I think he's picking Crawford because I think he sees, being a trainer, being a former fighter, something that a lot of people don't see. A lot of people see the hype. They see the previous victories with other opponents, and when they see that, they're like, okay, there's no doubt about it. Crawford's going up and he's moving up, 3 different weight classes. There's no way. So, logically, Canelo's going to do that because we've seen him do that so many times. But what Teddy claimed was maybe Canelo's a bit overrated. And let's talk about that idea. Is Canelo overrated? For one, I think you have to ask yourself honestly, how long have you been watching boxing? How long? Because when you talk about Canelo Alvarez, the first time I saw Canelo, he fought Matthew Hacklin, Ricky Hatton's brother. And he gave him a beating. And I seen Matthew. Matthew is probably one of as tough as they come. And I seen him do things that, I was very, very impressed with. And, even at my, I saw it with, I was talking to a friend of mine, shout out to John 5. I was talking to him and he was like, Canelo fights like a person that's more seasoned, that's more experienced. And I have to agree, even when he fought, Sugar Shane Mosley, he looked like a guy that's been in there for a long time. But what people don't realize about Canelo, he had at that time, by that time, he had been fighting for, 6 years, 7 years. He had turned pro when he was 15. You know what I mean? So when he was fighting guys like Mosley, he was like 21, 22 years old. I mean, he fought Floyd at like 22 or 23. And that was back in 13. The guy's 35. He just turned 35 this year, back in July. Okay. I think it's the 24th. I could be wrong. But he just turned 35, but he's been fighting 20 years. So is he overrated? No, I don't think he's overrated. I think people like to say that Canelo was this guy that was pretty good when he was in his early 20s. And then he learned from the defeats and then the adversity and then the challenges on through. And then, he had that aura of invincibility at 168 where he just dominated. He fought 4 times in 1 year, which was very, 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 very impressive. And nobody at that stature has never done that since. And most guys like Joshua, the Mayweathers, the Pacquiaos even, they fight twice a year. Canelo fought 4 times a year, okay? And I'm saying that to say this. Canelo Alvarez appeared like he had got so much better than he was. I don't believe that. I think Canelo Alvarez was very good a long time ago, but he was very good based on the 40-some-odd fights that he already had at a very young age. I think Canelo peaked at a very young age. I just believe that him being very good a long time ago, I think it carried through his career. He was able to do so much so long for a period of time that people just thought, oh man, he's so good. No, I think the styles of the fighter, since he was a smaller guy coming up to a weight class where his punch carried, because maybe he was fighting at it, because sometimes we saw Canelo looked like skin and bones, because maybe he was fighting at a smaller weight class. You know, we have situations like that. Vinny Pazienza, you know, guys like that were actually better when they were bigger. You know what I'm saying? Canelo, I think, was one of them. So when he got to 168, that was his perfect weight. He looked filled in. He didn't have those little sunken in spots where he looked like he was a half zombie. No more like he was at 154. That's why he had to go to 155, because he had to make his own weight class, because he couldn't make 154, right? So I think what it was, I don't think Canelo was underrated. I don't think that he learned so much more from that time. I think he was always a good fighter, a very good fighter, just like Teddy Atlas said, right? But I do think everyone, even Superman, has kryptonite. Okay, they have that Achilles heel. They have those styles of fighters that will give them challenges. And I think Terence Crawford, Erislandy Lara, of course, Floyd, Money Mayweather, those guys, a lot of people add Austin Trout. I think he actually did pretty good with Austin Trout. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really add Austin. I know Austin, no doubt Trout was pretty good, and he was undefeated when he fought Canelo, mind you. But I think those first three guys that I mentioned will always give him problems, and Terence Crawford is in that lineup. So I think that's why Teddy Atlas is seeing him like, look, you know, he may be underrated, because I think how people rate him or look at him. Okay, but I don't think that he has gained so much knowledge since then. What I do believe is he's always been a very, very good fighter, and the star power and the money kind of added on top of that to make him really something that a lot of people built him up to be. You know, I look at Canelo as a very intelligent fighter, and I look at him, you know, as always a threat and always a top fighter. He's an all-time great regardless of what happened Saturday, to be real with you. You know, that's my opinion. But I do understand why Teddy Atlas said what he said, because Terence Crawford is amongst the Mayweathers, possibly, is amongst the Pacquiaos. Those guys that are able to do things at ages they don't supposed to do it at any longer, where other fighters fade when they still prevail. Okay, I think that's what Teddy Atlas was talking about. Terence Crawford is a special fighter. But you guys tell me what you think, Usyk included, right? But you guys tell me what you think about Teddy Atlas's breakdown and prediction of Terence Crawford versus Canelo Alvarez. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace!